Here's how I went from $12 an hour to over $100,000 a year in just 3 years. When I was making $12 an hour, I was working as a detail sales advisor, and this actually brings me to my first point of learning a high-income skill. Learning sales at a young age, at 18 to be specific, is exactly how I was able to transform my career at such an early age. First thing I did was I got told no thousands and thousands of times, and funny enough, when they were going to finally certify me to sell packages to other customers, I actually failed the first certification, and they almost didn't let me get the job. A couple weeks went on and I finally got the job, and then at that point I generated about $15,000 a week in detail sales packages. It was a fun time, but don't get me wrong, $12 an hour plus commission was definitely not worth me, so I moved on. This brings me to point number 2. I'm a firm believer in your network is your net worth. I had a close person to me that had connections in a high-end company, and because of them, I was able to land my first job. This job specifically was a sales job, and I remember walking in on my first day looking at all these other sellers that were just miles and miles ahead of me, and I was a little overwhelmed. But needless to say, I learned from the best, I learned from the worst, and I learned from the mid-performers, and I was able to master the skill relatively quick and excel at it. And that brings me to my final point, number 3, focusing on my compensation over my ranking. My compensation was really important, and I was relatively young. In fact, I've always been the youngest in my position no matter how much I progressed in this company. But prioritizing my compensation early allowed me to stand out as far as the other competitors in the company. I knew the ins and outs of every single metric. I knew how much a certain thing would pay me if I sold it. The whole point of this video is to prioritize your career growth at such a young age, because at the end of the day, the higher you move up in a corporate 9-to-5 setting, the more money you'll make, usually. If you guys are new here, my name is Brandon. I do finance and career advice videos. If that's something you're interested in, give me a follow. Peace.